What a year it's been for women's sport, particularly here in England. After the nation's footballers won the Euros, they passed the baton on to the Red Roses, who stormed to victory in a home Rugby World Cup. It also means they've extended their winning run to 3 years, having lost last in the previous World Cup final in 2022. Abbie Ward was integral to that side and scored one of the tries in the final against Canada this year, as England became world champions for the first time since 2014. Well, I've been catching up with her as part of our broader chat about the growth of women's sport in the latest episode of This Sporting Planet. But here is the full interview exclusively for those of you watching on YouTube with World Cup winner then, Abbie Ward. Abbie, tell us then, how have the last couple of weeks been? Because it's been absolutely phenomenal. First of all, I should say congratulations as well. It's been absolutely
Thank you.
incredible what you've all achieved with the Red Roses.
Yeah, it's been crazy. It's been an absolute whirlwind. Obviously everyone has seen, that moment of us winning the World Cup, but so much has gone into that. The day was spectacular. Honestly, you couldn't imagine anything like it. Stepping off the bus to it felt like all 82,000 fans were there lining the walkway. Um, the game itself, I loved every minute actually, loved every minute of it. Obviously the result was amazing, and since then, yeah, it's been a whirlwind. It's kind of hard to come down from.
Well, I can well imagine. I mean, to create history like you've done is absolutely amazing. I suppose what we want to know, really, Abbie, is how were the celebrations?
Yeah, the celebrations were good. They were so good. They were much needed. It's been a tough, pre-season, tough tournament, and I mean, you've got to celebrate hard, haven't you? They lasted long, not just into the night, into the next few days. There was a group of us that went away last week to Ibiza to continue the celebrations. I'm not sure how much of that was able to go onto Instagram, but it's just a lot of fun. And one thing that I love about this group and the Red Roses is the girls, the group. We really enjoy each other's company. We really do celebrate each other, um, lift each other up. And so after games and tournaments and spectacles like that, it's just about coming together and bottling that moment, I think.
Hmm. So, how is this group bonded? Like you say, you just said this is an amazing group of women who have come together to achieve something fantastic. But how have you done that?
It's a really good question, and it's something which, as a group, we've really looked at. We've looked at how we can create that, because I think the best teams, the tightest teams, the teams that work hardest for each other are those that are the most close knit. So it's something that we've really gone after in the last 3 years, and we've done that through not like just the big moments, but the little moments, how we interact day to day, how we spend time with each other off the pitch as well as on the pitch, how we celebrate and acknowledge the individuals as well, because for me, that's what I love about rugby. 1 to 15, you need the variety of positions. It wouldn't work if everyone was the same. And I think that's exactly the same with personalities. So for us, it's been about knowing each other on a deeper level, like sharing our personal stories, our personal journeys. So you have that better understanding, and then you know how better to interact. And it just makes you tighter as a group. And I think that has been a point of difference and something really special about the Red Roses.
Hmm. And so, how pivotal has John Mitchell been to all of this as well?
Yeah, well, he's the guy that I think has particularly championed that and that whole side. Obviously, he's got an amazing rugby prowess, rugby brain, but I think what he's brought to the team off the pitch has been probably even more important. And it's that piece which I just spoke about, how we bond, how we interact, how we grow tighter as a group. Because you need that tightness. Rugby is such an attritional sport. There'll be moments where you're under pressure, where your back's against the wall, where you have to put your body on the line for your teammate, and they will do the same for you. So it's a lot about trust. And you don't get that trust without that close bond. And that is something that, Mitch has really championed, really brought in, and everyone has bought into it wholeheartedly, not just the staff, not just the players, but the staff as well, the whole group. And yeah, he's been amazing for that.
And obviously, you came into this tournament as the hosts, very much the favourites as well to win it. Bear in mind, it was being staged here too. Plus, you're on this incredible winning streak. What is it now? 33 games, something like that. Is it 3 year, near 3 year winning streak as well? I should say. That off the back of losing the last World Cup final. Do you think that added some pressure because of the fact you had been on this incredible run of games?
Um, did it add pressure? I'm not sure. I've never been part of an England team that hasn't been under pressure. I think we're used to that. I don't think we necessarily feel it as much as other teams. You know, I've played in 3 World Cups now. Both the World Cups before that, we probably went in as favourites, and we didn't get that, you know, that final result. The last World Cup we went into off the back of a an amazing winning streak of, I think, 30 games as well. That final is the one that eluded us, and you know, since then we've won every game, but it's always been, well, we didn't win the final. And
Mm.
rugby and sport, we love it because it's so unpredictable, and it your form doesn't matter, because on the day your actions matter, and that is the result that you'll be remembered by. So was there extra pressure? Potentially. Did we feel it as a group? I don't think so. I think we loved it. We relished it. We really enjoyed having a home World Cup, and we really felt the support of, you know, not just having our friends and family there, but the support of the nation.
Mhm.
And like I said, stepping off the bus at Twickenham and seeing, you know, a sea of people filling every balcony,
Mm.
every stand,
Mm.
was phenomenal. Honestly, it's a moment that all of us will remember for the rest of our lives. And you know, that really made the difference.
But like you mentioned, being a part of the squad that lost the last World Cup final, was that also something that you and everyone else that had been involved at that time sort of used as well as a kind of incentive? Like we've got to finally get it done because we are such a great team.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they're such hard pills to swallow when, you know, something like that happens. And the game itself in 2017, you know, coming down to the last play, it was really difficult. But I also experienced that in in 2017, when we were up at half time and then we lost. And
Mm.
2022, you know, was the last play. So yes, I think that definitely spurs you on. It definitely gives you that extra hunger, but it's a hunger that and desire that the whole squad had anyway. I think what it also gives you is, when you, and I have only found this as I've matured in my career and potentially also becoming a mother, you have a different perspective. It's I can now look back at those games and be proud of, you know, for a long time I, you know, wouldn't even want to talk about those games or think about it. Or for me, I was almost embarrassed, you know, for us losing. I remember after the 2022 final, coming round and seeing my family, I couldn't even look them in the eye, and really felt that. But now, like, obviously, I look back at it and, you know, I'm proud to be involved in those moments, because I've also been so lucky to witness a huge growth and change in the women's sporting landscape, and definitely in women's rugby landscape. So to go from those events and then to be part of a World Cup final at Twickenham, which was sold out, and to get the result, it definitely makes it puts everything into perspective. It makes it also worthwhile, and you just, I think, you realise even more how special it is.
We'll talk more about the growth of women's rugby a little bit later on as well. But something I wanted to just pick up on, you mentioned being a mother now. What are the challenges like as a rugby player and as a mother too?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. It's definitely a balancing act, shall we say.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. I feel so fortunate, so proud to be able to bring my daughter up surrounded by so many strong women, so many inspiring role models. And like I said, rugby in particular, I think, is such a healthy sport to be surrounded in, the values, but also, like I said, from 1 to 15, everyone is so different, and everyone is celebrated. It was definitely tough through the World Cup, but you know, knowing it was a home World Cup and I was never too far away. I think
Mm.
adding to that the quarter and semi-finals being in Bristol, I couldn't have written it any better. So you know,
Yeah.
I could go home, I could stay at home, and yeah, the squad's been unbelievable as well. There was one game, we kind of try and plan it out, me and my husband, and how we'll work it and how, you know, we can logistically is the biggest problem. There was one game where he was working, he coaches rugby team, and I was obviously at the World Cup, and our family weren't around, and it was quite funny actually, because it was Samoa, so I wasn't due to play, but I was due to warm up. So Hallie, my daughter, ended up coming to the game, but solely in the Red Roses care. So Amy Kakay and Alex Matthews were on duty all morning.
Oh, I love
They
it.
were with her in the stands, carrying the porta potty. I was
Oh,
warming
I
up,
love
and then
this.
joined made them a packed lunch, and yeah, they were just sat in front of the coaches, and I think that's something that's so special about women's sport and women's rugby, and definitely the Red Roses and what we've built in that culture. Because you probably wouldn't see that other places. You know, at the pinnacle of, like you said, we've talked about, is it such a pressure environment? Yes, it is. We're playing for a World Cup, but also it's acknowledged. Yeah, everyone has different lives, different things that they're juggling. Abbie's a
Mm,
mum. Hallie is part of the team. She's going to come with us. She'll sit on the bus. She'll love it, and
love it.
yeah, we just get on with it.
I love it. She's like the mini Rose, which is brilliant, I'm sure. But it also goes to show how we are in a time where you can be a mother and have a career and a sporting career at that as well.
Definitely, and I think the biggest thing that I would like to other people to like think about and learn, and it's like you can, but you need support. I'm very lucky that I've had that support, and it's been okay to say, okay, I'm a bit stuck this week. Hallie's going to have to come with us, and it's like, yeah, how do we make it work? How do we make sure that Abbie can concentrate on her job? Because if someone got injured in
Mm.
the warm up, I would have then been playing,
Mm,
but
mm,
also put her at ease to know that don't worry, Hallie's happy with us. She's she's quite happy in the stands. We've got everything that we need. Um, it can absolutely be done.
mm.
You can either do it the hard way, or you can have people, help you out. And if you've got that support, it is much easier.
Yeah. And again, it gets to kind of show as well how adaptable everything is now and how within the England setup, of course, like you say, with those games perfectly staged in Bristol, you could go home, you could spend time at home, which, if you look back to, let's say, broader sports like with England football, for example, when they go away, they're very much in their camp and they can't really do anything and they can't leave their camps. But it kind of feels we're living in a time where downtime is just as important as being amongst your teammates.
Yeah, it's huge. I think it's particularly huge for mental health as well. And I think for me, I've always said a happy player makes a good player. And we've got to acknowledge that everyone is different. Some people love to just be immersed in a camp environment. And once they're in, they like to stay in. They like to, do that camp environment. Some people like to get out of it. Some people
Mm,
need to get away, need to do other things. They might want to do creative things, or they might want to do like ice baths or whatever it is to get away to, I guess, clear their headspace so that they can be a better player. And it's something that I've noticed through my time playing in the Red Roses. That's been a big shift and a big change, that actually trust the individuals, trust the players, that they know what works for best for them. And it really does get the best out of people. You also have to remember, we're not just a professional rugby player for that small time that we're with England.
mm,
It's
mm,
all year long.
mm.
And week in, week out, we're doing this. We're managing our time, we're
Yeah.
managing our energy, we're managing our recovery, whilst, having a home life, having a social life. So why should it be different when you
Mm,
go onto an international stage? There might
mm.
be times, and for me, I planned it so that last week that we're in London, you know, Hallie didn't come along so that I could really concentrate and maximize my recovery and rest, and actually got some naps in. But the rest of the time, we manage it well. So it's supporting, but I think the biggest thing is trusting those individuals to get the best out of them.
I have to say, Abby, I love a nap, so I'm with you on that. Nap time is so important for me, I tell you what. Let me ask you about the final. Let's get back to it. You went behind very early on in the game to Canada. What happened once you went behind? Were there any conversations on the pitch to change things? How was it? How did you go about making sure that this is a minor blip, but we're going to come through?
Yeah, it's something that we're quite comfortable in going behind. People speak about the Red Rose and they'll say, "Oh, but you're used to winning every game." We're used to also being under a lot of pressure, as we've spoken about. There's lots of games where we've gone behind early on. Lots of big games. I can think of, France away in Six Nations. New Zealand, Canada. When we played them last year in the WXV, I think we were behind for a lot of that game. We're used to it. We, as a playing group, we know how to fix it on pitch. We know whether it's, a detail error, whether it's just an execution error.
Mm,
For us, we there was maybe one minor fix up, but it wasn't like, okay, we need to change anything drastically. It was very much, okay, yeah, we trust the plan, we trust the process. Let's just go out there and assert our game plan onto them, which we did. And um, I think Zoe Harrison was unbelievable in the way that we asserted our pressure plan, our kick to compete plan on them, and then the set piece came alive. The forwards do what the forwards do best, which is a lot of scrumming, pushing, mauling, doing the grunt work, and yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the Canada story as well, and how incredible it was for them to get to the final, when you consider they had to do a bit of crowdfunding as well to get them to go as far as essentially as they did in this World Cup.
Yeah, definitely. Canada are one of the teams that aren't fully professional. A lot of the players play in a semi-professional guise. A lot of them play in the PWR, which is the English Premiership, but it's not fully professional. Fully professional
Mm,
players at the minute are usually kind of professional through their union. So the likes of New Zealand, France, ourselves, Wales, Scotland. What I will say is it's great to see, as soon as those first contracts came in, other nations started following suit. I think we've seen how successful the World Cup has been, the most tickets sold, over 5 million people tuning into the final. Um, like, I'd love to see more investment. I'd love to see more
mm,
teams go professional. I'd love to see, more kind of Jenga blocks tumbling and that the next nations to go professional to support their women.
mm,
Because like you said, it's an unbelievable story for a team that's not fully professional to still perform like they did, to still get to a World Cup final and put an unbelievable display of rugby on show. So yeah, I hope the eyes on women's rugby, on women's sport, can see what a huge investment, potential investment it is, and do so. But yeah, I think as England, we always try and set the standard, push the standard, break those glass ceilings, pave the way, and hope that we can bring other nations along, or we can learn from other nations that are doing stuff better than ourselves. That was also the case with like the maternity, and to see more
mm.
of the professional nations now introducing maternity policies or working parent policies that are fit for purpose is amazing. So let's see what the next steps hold for us as well.
So how do you see yourself as a role model on and off the pitch? Do you like that? Because the way you're talking, and obviously in the way that the England setup is, they are one of the forerunners, really front runners, really, when it comes to the growth of women's rugby.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that for me, this is something that is what is a role model that has changed for me over the years. Um, I think something which is so special about the game is like, as women's players, we really care about the growth. We're really invested in it, and we realise that we're a big part of that.
Mm,
So I think, growing up, I didn't have many or any really kind of female rugby role models. I didn't know there was an England team. You talk about see it to be it. I think it's really
mm,
important that as players we are putting ourselves out there, so young girls and boys can see what amazing, role models there are. I also think it's important to show those characters and individuals, because sometimes it can be quite hard to relate to the red rose or a white shirt, but you might be able to relate to Ellie Kildunn's fashion sense, Sarah Burns' music taste,
mm.
what Lark Davies does on a weekend. And it's those connections. And if that sparks something inside someone that is sat at home, or, I want to be a rugby player, but I don't really see myself as an England player, but actually, like, that's something I can relate to. That's something that, I'm interested in. I think that's hugely important. And then I also think the other side of, being a role model, and definitely something that I've learned, is what we can do for the game broader. What we can do, I was part of the group of players that um, kind of was on board with striving to get better contracts. Um, you know, I had a small part to play in the maternity policies and the working parent policy that we're looking at now, like how we can do more for the broader game through those policies and stuff behind the scenes that people don't necessarily see, but it's huge. And like I said, when I first started, it wasn't professional. I, saw the introduction of the first contracts, and since then there's been, you know, um, it's changed and it's adapted, but I think there's a huge role for players to play in that, and in how that progresses, how that changes.
Mm.
And we might not see the benefits. I probably won't see the benefits, but if it will help the next generation along, then I think that is so, so important.
It's legacy building, isn't it, really, at the end of the day? And after winning the World Cup, this is the key moment, isn't it, for women's rugby, especially in England, to ensure, like you say, for generations to come, there is a game for them to play.
Yeah, absolutely. We always said, definitely one of the goals was to win the World Cup, but the second goal was to create a legacy. There's been such huge momentum. We don't want it to stop now. We don't want it to
Mm.
be, oh my God, that final, England lifting the trophy at Twickenham, wasn't that brilliant? And then women's rugby just kind of falls off. We've built this momentum. We want to grow the game. We want to keep that. We saw what obviously the amazing spectacle of the Lionesses winning the Euros in England and how that kind of boosted girls rugby, girls football in England. Like we want to create the same. We want to create the same kind of um, wave that the Lionesses have created, and we really think we can. And like I said, I
Mm.
think rugby for me, it's just it's so amazing because I really do think there is a position and a place for absolutely everybody. So if we can show that to as many people as possible, create as many opportunities to play, get involved, volunteer, coach, whatever aspect it is, then for me, that's that legacy piece that we talk about.
And obviously, the new Premiership women's rugby season isn't too far off in starting as well. So, how does that league encourage more fans, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was back yesterday, first day back in after the World Cup. It quickly moves, doesn't it? And straight
Yeah.
away the focus is on PWR. I think PWR is an amazing showcase. We have some unbelievable players, and it's not just England players. We've got some of the best Scottish players, Welsh players, Canadians, US,
Mhm.
um, Italians, honestly, and it's competitive rugby week in, week out. It's local rugby. I think what's brilliant about the Red Roses is we do take our games all over the country. But even saying that, it's not always, it's only a few games a year and people can't always make it. You should be able to, go along to your local PWR game. It's such a great, friendly environment, atmosphere, bring your whole family down, get involved, be part of it because, like I said, it's pretty special. I think it's pretty special. Everyone that's come to games, whether they've been first time watching women's rugby or taking their kids along, it's a place for everybody.
And how are you feeling about the new season then? Like you say, it's come around pretty quick, but you've got to get back into the swing of it.
Yeah, it's funny. It almost feels like we're at the end of a season because we're at the end of, what's been a pretty intense cycle. But we're right at the start of the Premiership season. And you know what? I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be back in club with the girls. It's always new faces, there's always change. There's, new coaches and, teams becoming stronger, other teams, there's different opportunities. So, yeah, I think it's going to be the most competitive season yet, and that's what we love. That's what we want.
Yeah. I'm just going to quickly ask you about the R360 League, which I'm sure you've been talking about in the dressing rooms, for example. Is that something that you think the game needs, or is it something you'd be interested in exploring, or are you just happy as it is?
To be honest, I don't probably know enough about it yet. I think a lot of the media, I think there's quite a bit of media attention on it over the World Cup, but during that period, I was just heading the
Cool.
spokes, concentrating on the World Cup. I don't really focus too much on what's being said around the game, so I don't know too much to fully comment. What I do really like about rugby, though, as a sport in general, we're constantly looking at how you can change the game. And whether that's
Mm.
in the laws and the laws changing every year, adapting, trying out new laws, whether that's the format of the game, if this is another way of looking at rugby differently and adapting, then I'm all for yeah, looking at different ways of doing things. If it's something that could, bring more investment into the sport, then that's great. But yeah, probably don't know enough to fully comment.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we have been really lucky in England is the strength of the PWR. So I know in other nations they don't have as strong leagues, but we've definitely had well, in my opinion, the world leading league
Mm.
in PWR.
Well, let me just ask you finally then. You talked about obviously fans coming down, getting more fans to the PWR. But what about those now that are inspired, those young girls who've looked on and seen what the Red Roses have done? How can they get into rugby?
Go to your local club. I think if you Google "find rugby," um, on the England Rugby website, you will find your local club. But don't just go down, take your friends with you. That's how I got involved. My friend dragged me along and said, "Abbie, I'm gonna go to training, will you come?" I said, "Okay, yeah." Um, and it's as easy as that. Just
Mm.
have a go, pick up a ball, no pressure. I played my first game and then stopped playing. And I remember my coach seeing my mum in town saying, "Where's Abbie been?" My mum said, "Oh, I don't think it's quite the sport for her." But then I picked it up again later and, I think, yeah, just have a go, enjoy it. That is what it's all about.
Brilliant. Listen, Abby, I could have chatted to you for ages, but I'm conscious of the time. Appreciate you joining us on this Sporting Planet. So thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks for having me.